Welcome to A Breath of Fresh Career, Season 2, Episode 3. I am joined here by two great guys, Jon Mayo and Glenn Pineda, partners in crime and business with Trainability Studios. I'm psyched to talk to these guys about what they're doing with Trainability Studios, how the thought about training, personal training has changed given the worldwide pandemic and COVID that we're facing. Trainability Studios, we're going to get into what Trainability Studios is in a second, but let me just give our listeners a quick overview of what, I learned about you guys. So really it gives a unique take on a private training environment, private training facility for small boutique gyms.
Yep.
And these guys have developed micro gyms to provide fitness trainers, fully outfitted organizations, to include the technology that goes along with it all. We're going to talk about that in a second. How I met these guys, I've got a long relationship with Jon Mayo. Jon, I think it dates back 2012 when you were at Shango.
Yep.
And the really cool thing is Jon brings kind of marketing technology, advertising / marketing technology, as well as commercial real estate to Trainability Studios, and that experience and that background. And Glenn, on the other side, brings the engineering side as well as the personal training and health side to it as well. So without further ado, welcome Jon, welcome Glenn. Can you guys, and you can go in whatever order you want, but tell the listeners a little bit about who you guys are.
Sure. I'll let Glenn go first, but thanks, just really quickly, thanks for having us on here, Justin. It's in the nearly 10 years we've known each other, it's been a pleasure. But then when you kicked us off last year during the pandemic, it was kind of fun to listen to on my morning walks, and you've done a kick-ass job. So congrats on season 2.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah.
All right. I'm Glenn Pineda. People call me Coach P. That kind of stuck with people. When I started my business, I called it Coach Pineda because I didn't want to be Glenn Fitness or something named Fitness, because that's everybody's name in the fitness industry. And I'm the founder and also one of the personal trainers at Trainability Studio. So like Justin said, my degree is actually in software engineering. I'm a computer engineer, and I was coding since I was 14, 15, since I got my first, compact Presario 486XX from my dad.
Yeah.
And that had 8 megabytes of RAM, so it was a pretty powerful one at the time. So I grew up in Oslo, Norway. And it's kind of weird because not many Filipinos were in Oslo at the time. Now there are, but at the time there's very few of us.
You're a trendsetter, man. A trendsetter. Started back in homeland.
Early adopter.
And I like to tell people is like, if you've never been to Oslo before, it's not all white, it's not all blonde and blue-eyed. It's actually very mixed. It's a lot of, yeah. exactly right. It's a lot of Eastern Europeans, a lot of Turks, a lot of Northern Africans. So I grew up in a very, very diverse city, and like San Francisco, really. So I lived there most of my life, from age 3 to 20, 24, 25, until I moved to San Francisco. So I've been in San Francisco for 15 years now.
I was going to say, you've been in San Fran for about a year now.
No,
I'm kidding.
I'm like, what? And moving to San Francisco, that's when I kind of got into fitness, because it's like, I used to go to the gym in Norway before, but not like here. Because when I saw people here, people were fit, people were, religiously going to gyms, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna give this a try. So I started back in 2006. That's when I started like learning more about it, reading more about it, and all that stuff. Until a few years later, I got a personal trainer. So I got a little bit of taste of how it is to get trained by a personal trainer. And I love the results that we made. And both like body-wise and like mentally, what it did to my body. I was always happy after a workout, right? So that's really what started my fitness journey. So fast forward today, we opened Trainability Studio.
Awesome.
I'll let Jon take over.
Yeah, I think the part that, well, I'll jump in on that is, he talked a lot about the philosophy of kind of Scandinavian culture growing up and things being simple, people being kind of very clean and healthy and wellness. And when Glenn moved to San Francisco, he got into the personal training business, and his goal was always to kind of open up his own gym. And one of the things that he used to talk about was, he was like, I like to apply the principles of my engineering background, which is I was really good at developing the machine and creating a much more efficient way for people to use this machine and this technology. He was like, I kind of want to apply that to my Nordic upbringing as well as physical fitness. And so, when he started doing all this training, I remember him coming to me and just saying, he was, I need to develop some type of an app for this. He goes, because I just running the business of trainability, or Coach P it was at the time, was fun, but his engineering brain was just running the show. And so all the different apps and all the software out there, it was really built primarily for either big enterprise level fitness facilities or for the client side, right? And you can buy a program, you can get a workout, whatever it might be. And, I'd see him, working 6 hours a day on coding. And essentially he started building this app that was really about for the individual trainer and how they run their business. Things like payments and scheduling, cancellations, messaging, storing programs, and they're creating a program store, forecasting your revenue, seeing trends over the parts of the year. So you can kind of go back and start saying, I'm going to have a very slow February and March because January is so kick-ass, but people drop off at the end of the month. So the app was really his big deal.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole, Trainability Studio was kind of like a blend of technology and fitness, because the more I dove into fitness, the more I could find science behind it. Like, there's a lot of equations, like, and I didn't know that, I mean, when I was in Norway, when I worked out, it was like, oh, there's a chest press machine, like, I'll do that. And there's another chest press machine, I'll do that as well. So with this one, I kind of learned how to become smarter on working out. So you're not just doing it just to do it, but there's actually a plan. So that's how I kind of want to incorporate these two, is like get the technology in there, now that we have all these wearables as well, right? That are available for us, that tools to help us succeed. So that was the main thing about Trainability Studio.
So let's fast forward to a year ago, to COVID, when it kicks off. You guys are in San Francisco. You've got this brainchild of the app, working out, training, being a personal trainer. Jon, his marketing technology background, etc. Tell us what Trainability Studios is in your own words.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, I kind of give you the idea of how we came together on this thing. That might be helping, and I'll let Glenn dig into the philosophy of the studio. And obviously in March of 2020, everyone knew that there was a huge shutdown across the country, and some of the biggest places to shut down were physical fitness gyms. And Glenn, being an independent trainer at this one of the largest gyms in San Francisco, they shut down, and he was no longer working. He couldn't work. He could do virtual, which is kind of a pain in the ass. His clients didn't want to do virtual. He could work out outside, but that wasn't exactly what he wanted to do. He wanted to use his expertise. And Justin, you know me, I had spent 6 years building a startup, building their sales team, the revenue model. And in January of 2020, I decided to put in a 6-month leave and take a sabbatical last year and take some time off and just kind of relax and be with my friends, my family, and enjoy my 50th. Pull those short. Anyway, what really ended up happening is, I wasn't working. I ended up leaving early so I could let the company stay afloat. Glenn wasn't working, so we just started putting our heads together. And I said, why don't we go and get you the studio now? I said, because we could go out and find some spaces, we negotiate a kick-ass lease, we could build in a COVID clause, and you'd have free reign, because right now, while everyone else is running scared, is the best opportunity to build something, right? You build and grow at the immediacy and let everyone else kind of wait for something to get better. And that's kind of what we did, right? So I'll let him talk about the philosophy of what Trainability Studio always was in his head, and then the physical plant of which we have here is what was born out of that.
Right. So obviously, like, I couldn't work, so that gave me a lot of time to develop this app a lot more. I was actually in the middle of developing version 2 of this app before the pandemic started. So I had time to finish that. So when I finished, I was like, okay, what now? I've I've done this, I've made this better. And I thought, what, after talking to him about opening a studio, I started expanding the app to support maintaining a studio or managing a studio as well. And then and that's kind of like it started to form more and more. And then in my head, Trainability Studio was, technology right up there, but also I want the safety and also the privacy around it. I mean, first and foremost, the privacy. The safety came a little bit after when COVID hit, but the privacy one, because it's like, have you ever been to a gym where you paid for an hour, someone to train you, and then you go there? Let's say you can go there. Most of the people can go at 5 p.m., 6 p.m. right after work, and
Everybody's
that's right, and that's prime time. Right? So you have to wait for machines. You have to walk over there. You have to there's a lot of stuff that is not efficient enough for me to do like a whole hour training with you. So I came up with this idea of just like, okay, what if we have micro gyms instead, where you have a dedicated space where you can do everything with your client, and also have enough tools to do all the exercise you need to do. So having that personal training background, I kind of knew what to buy equipment wise, to keep it in a very minimal, but at the same time, you can do and whatever you needed to. I mean, give me a set of dumbbells and I can do anything with you, right? So so that's how it started, really. And we actually started looking at places 2 years ago. But we couldn't justify all the leases here.
The leases were high.
It was really high.
It was the chaotic time where, all of a sudden things like Soul Cycle were really, really big. And so people were doing the big classes, and the big box gyms were doing all these unique special things. So kind of the boutique gyms were nothing more than smaller replicas of a Gold's Gym or a Planet Fitness, right? And so really to kind of keep this conversation going, what ended up happening is we identified a space we really, really liked. We came in, and it took us about almost a month to negotiate this deal, primarily because the landlord was afraid to lose, right? So I brought in a friend of mine who's a lawyer, a real estate lawyer. We wrote up a COVID clause and presented it to him and said, listen, let's share the risk in this. You know what? I understand that you don't want to have a client who's going to want to close and go out of business, but we want to have somebody who's going to give us the opportunity to succeed even during the pandemic. So the two roles were kind of set aside. So Glenn started focusing on, I need to go find enough equipment and special cages and all this stuff so that one trainer and one client can work out just like they do at a huge big box gym, but within their own environment. So I spent my time on negotiating the lease and finding where we could get that equipment, small business loans, or do we take a self loan ourselves? And that's kind of where we really started putting the rubber to the road and building this thing. And then you saw a little video clip earlier. What was really born out of it is the idea had never changed about this private one-on-one experience. If you're gonna pay somebody $100 to $150 an hour to train you, it's really nice to be the only person in the room. And so what we did differently, we created that environment, but we went and we built up sliding partitions, and then we installed different fans. So essentially, you now not only get that privacy, you also get the theater privacy as well, because you are alone, and the studio next to you can't see you, and you can't see the one next to you as well. So it really created a great environment for clients. And then the trainers are just floored by it. They walk in, they're like,
well,
oh,
think,
shit.
yeah,
So,
think about we up the service level without upping the price that the clients pay, if not lower, because there's no membership fees here. It's just, you just pay your trainer. So you're already paying your trainer.
And it doesn't matter where you are, right? Yeah. So let me get this straight. So you guys are in essentially an 800 square foot place, and you divided it into 4 200 square foot micro.
it's about 1,700. Yeah, it's about 1,700 square feet. Yeah. Each side is about 850, I would say.
Okay.
And so one of the sides is divided into 3 different micro gyms. They're about 230 square feet roughly each. And then the other side is the main studio, which we also have different lighting, and we'll have cameras up. So if you want to do some recording here, then you've got kind of the front desk area. We have room that will eventually be for 2 different cardio machines, but right now, because of COVID, we're not doing any cardio. So so the front area is where you kind of walk in, welcome, front desk. That's where I do make coffee and espressos for everybody. And then you've got the other studios in back. So we kind of literally, we've created this whole experience that he wanted to do. He wanted to have an ability for dogs to come. So to have like a coffee bar. So if people need to, bell ringer before they start. So everything here is really kind of a real high touch, from the cleanliness to the style, all the way down to when somebody walks in, they offered a water, a coffee. I can walk their dog. We text people when the street cleaners go by, so anyone gets text. It's his whole idea and methodology was like, be high touch. Make it the studio is really important for the trainer to build their business first and foremost, and then from a aesthetic, people walk in and like, this place is so clean. I'm not concerned about COVID at all.
Yeah, right. That's awesome. You talk about the rooms being kind of sanctioned off, right, by the sliding partitions, but with COVID, you're one-on-one. So it's not like there's open air going around the whole gym with fans blowing and all this other stuff and air handlers and everything else going. But so let me get this straight. Let me make sure I understand this correctly. If I'm a trainer, I can essentially come in, rent one of your micro gyms. Do I have access to the app that you've created as well? And if so, tell me how that works.
Yeah, 1 sec.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. So this, like the step-by-step process, really simply is, and I spend actually the better part of my mornings reaching out to what we hear are some of the best trainers in San Francisco, and I invite them in with a client for 1 or 2 free sessions to test it out, right? So it's more of a referral or invitation. We won't just take anybody. They come on board, they can do a number of things. One, they can come in and just try the place out. But the best part is when they download the app is both URL and both iPhone and Android based. So essentially what they can do is they would book their sessions. So we require a number of minimum sessions per month, which is 30 sessions per month they book. Now, if you think about that, that's not a whole lot. That's about 7.5 hours per week. That's not much for a trainer's not making enough money that way. So they book their sessions that way. And when they book them, they are essentially being charged by Trainability Studio. When their client checks in, that pulls a session from them and it pulls a session from Glenn. So essentially it's a waterfall of check-in dollar amounts. So essentially the trainer pays session amounts and the client pays session amounts to the trainer. So it's just kind of this waterfall, who gets charged by who. And that's all done through the app that way.
Okay.
And then each month he gets pinged when their session's getting lower, and it sends an automatic response out to the trainer. Hey, you're getting low on sessions. Would you like to charge 30 more? And they said yes, and it automatically bills their credit card and comes through. The same thing goes to their clients who have the app. We'll say you're only down to 2 sessions left. Do you want Todd to charge you 30 more sessions? Yes, they get charged, and then Todd buys them from Glenn. So the app. So when you become a Trainability affiliated independent trainer, you have access to the app. And what that app allows you to do is book your sessions each week or day. So your client will pay you for, let's just say 10 sessions, you the trainer, and your trainer will say, great, I'm going to go book you on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You book it through the app. It remembers it in the system, it puts it on the monitor above the studio. And so when that person checks in, it draws the session from the trainer, and the trainer's session gets drawn from Trainability Studio. So it's like a waterfall of charging. So you need to have credits in the system to book time. Just like if you were a client, you'd need sessions with the trainer to book time with them. So it's just the same type of process, but it just goes from the Trainability Studio to the trainer to the client.
I understand. So I'm a workout fanatic. How do I use one of your micro gyms?
Well, first of all, you need a trainer. So it's a trainer only gym, right?
Okay.
So to use this gym, you have to have a trainer, and that's it. Like I said earlier, you don't have to pay any membership fees or anything like that. You come in, get your assessment, which is for free, and then you book with your trainer, and then you go from there. So that's how you can come over here.
And that's how that waterfall effect that you were talking about, John. That's kind of how that whole thing works out. So
yeah.
So does the app charge me, or does the trainer charge me?
The trainer.
The trainer charges you.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep. So essentially the real simple approach here is the trainer is just renting time from us, very much like a hairstylist rents time in a chair at a salon.
I understand. Okay.
So we have no employee overhead. We have no employee tax, right? All we have is him.
Yeah, right.
and the overhead. So, I mean, the beauty of this type of a situation is that all of your sunk costs are your original overhead. Once the place is open and going, the only thing you're paying for is electricity, water, and then, in our case, we do coffee and bottled water for people and maintenance. So
you got to pay the barista,
Exactly.
Well,
and I am not cheap.
So, I started this podcast, A Breath of Fresh Career, to talk to people and help inspire folks that, might be facing interesting times, creative times where this pandemic has set people back. They're unemployed. They might be looking for a change. It may have opened people's eyes to make a change, etc. I always ask everybody who's kind of started their own thing, like you guys, especially during this time. And I know it was a little bit before that, but I really feel like COVID essentially springboarded you guys into where you are today.
Sure.
What is one thing you wish you had known before you started this business?
Well, me personally, this is my first business starting. I wish I knew more about starting a business. Um, you know, I'm having a lot of fun learning and all of that, but at the end of the day, it would have been so much easier and less hours of trying to figure out, especially when you're training at the same time as doing, the managing of the business. So for me personally, I wish I knew more about opening a business like that. Um,
I would say, and Justin, you've worked through this. My entire career has been opening things. Back before I got into sales, I used to open restaurants with other people, and then I got into sales and tech startups. And I started opening businesses that way, and then I run a commercial real estate stuff business with my sisters up north, and we started an Airbnb in Palm Springs. So my whole background has just been kind of like banging down doors and starting from scratch. But this is the first time we've ever actually done anything brick and mortar. And if there's one thing I wish I knew more about, and this is because it was so quick, it's understanding the rules and the processes and the stuff that the city requires, right? Mm-hmm. How much lead time you'd need to actually have permitting done, what to expect from that. What's the lead time to order this type of equipment? Probably not so long, except for COVID hit and everyone in the world was ordering dumbbells and stuff. So, right. Being able to research and source this, thank God we live in the Bay Area, because the Bay Area is kind of a hotbed of high level equipment. Where we got a lot of ours, there's 3 warehouse locations here and they ship all over the country. They're based here for some reason, not like LA or or Nevada, but here. So we were fortunate we were able to get in the car and go drive up and actually see and touch the machines. And the guys there were great. When they heard that we were opening a gym in the pandemic, they were almost rooting for us to get everything here. Yeah. So I think something we've really learned is that the fit fam, if you will, the fitness family is really a tight community, right? They really back each other up and help each other out. So it's been a good, that's been a really fun learning experience, is to come from different backgrounds and realize that this industry, it seems like it should be super competitive, and it is, but they really embrace each other from all the different types, right? From Pilates studios to boxes to big box gyms to everything. So that's been really cool.
Yeah.
And now you guys are in San Francisco proper.
Correct.
Yeah.
Pardon me for asking this. I mean, this seems very a basic question. I mean, it seems like a franchise opportunity waiting to happen here. An expansion. But I could see, I could see Trainability Studios in every major NFL city, plus that in the US and North America. What are the plans? What are you guys thinking?
Okay.
Well,
it's funny that we've talked about it in a number of ways. One, first and foremost, is starting very small regionally where we know people who'd want to be involved. We already have people from Seattle down to Palm Springs. It's like, we'd love to be a partner. So we look at it as starting off almost like a managing partnership. Like, we're involved in the kind of the early days, because what the aesthetic and the layout is really, really important, right? If you think back to what the McDonald's story of franchising and how important it was then that everything was identical. Part of what we do is not just the micro gyms, it's the attention to detail. It's the high fucking service when people walk in. It's like the fact that, literally my background was hospitality before I got into sales. So I've asked other trainers to tell me about their clients. So when I walk in the morning, I see who's coming in, I greet them by their name. I ask how their spouses and their dogs are. I'm like, so it's not just a place to get fit. It's a place to actually kind of call home a little bit. And it's clean, it's high tech, it's really easy to go. And that's what we want to do. So when it comes to that franchising opportunity, we've talked about this. It's getting the right people involved first. So that way you want to make sure you prove the concept, that it's actually can be rolled out in that regard.
Okay. So this is essentially the proof of concept. It's proven itself and starting to even more so. Do you think you see yourself sitting down with franchise lawyers and stuff like that and trying to figure out how to make this a reality?
Yeah, that's the next step. I think we'll do one more on our own before we do that. And then it's really like, okay, how do we actually wrap this thing up and what does that entail?
Yeah. That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
So advice, right? Somebody looking to start a business like yours, obviously not a micro gym. We don't want any competition out there.
Them.
Yeah. But no, what advice other than, knowing about, John, you spoke about brick and mortar and lead time and, all this other stuff, but what advice would you give someone looking to start a business right now?
Well, industry specific, if I can start with that, I think John brought it up a little bit earlier too. It's like, don't be afraid to ask your peers, your people that already have gyms, because everybody backs up everybody. And it's so weird that not weird, but um, boutique gyms are not in in competition. It's for some reason it's like, because boutique gyms is mostly, it's like this gym, people come here. A lot of the people come here because of me, because this is what I built. This is my method, right?
Yep.
And all the boutique gyms have their little uniqueness into it. So that's, we're not really like, in competition. So that's one of the things I had to kind of get through, because when I used to be a programmer, programmers are so competitive to each other. They're like, whoever's the smartest is gonna like win, right? Like, what they call survival of the fittest in the programming industry. But here it's actually really fun to ask people that have done this for 2 years or even 15 years, and everybody's so helpful, and they send you resources, and they personally take their time to help you. So if I can give an advice, it's like, talk to people. Don't be afraid to talk to people. Yeah, they're gonna help you.
And I would say no different than all the startups I was a part of. It's do your research, know your market, be an expert at what you're trying to do. Find the key differentiator. Right? You don't have to be so big of a disruptor that you're that different, but find out what you're good at and own that, right? And pivots can be made, and they will happen just because market changes will occur. But do your research, get to know it, and believe in it, right? The most thing I always say is like, be very, very confident, very own it. And anyone who ever worked for me in the past knows that I always say, like, you've got to believe it. You've got to believe in your heart and your gut that what you're doing is the right thing and the best thing, whether it be brick and mortar or just the app part of it or whatever it might be. That's what really helps an entrepreneur keep taking steps forward, because there's gonna be a lot of hard days and a lot of bad days. But you can get through those when you know exactly where you want to be and how to get there.
That's great. I ask every single guest that I have on, there has to have been people that have been most influential in your life. So who are three people who have been most influential? And we could go one by one here. So Jon, why don't you kick that off?
Sure. I was thinking about this the other day when you and I previously talked about thinking about who that is. I was trying to dig really deep. I was trying to be very guttural, like who's helped me in the last few years. And what it really boils down to is I'm the direct result of both my mother and my father's background. My dad was a dentist by day and an entrepreneur by night. He would buy commercial buildings and try to start companies. Some would fail, some would not. He never gave up. My mom was the networking glue of the family. Everyone said without Ginny Mayo that no one would be around. She was funny, she was vivacious, she was dedicated, she took care of everyone. And that's kind of how I've run my life and my career with both my friends, but also where I've worked. And the last one, I said, like my sister, she is literally a replica of me. We laugh the same, we do the same thing, we check in with each other every single week. She's a dental consultant, and she has built practices for other guys and moved on to other stuff. We actually bounce ideas off each other. And so she's really great. Now, outside of this guy, those are the three that just like I can look back and say, I literally turn to those memories of them all the time. My mom passed away when I was 21, so she's never got to really be a part of it. My dad passed away 10 years ago, so he never got to see all this. So, but I can look at them and the way they kind of taught me and brought me up. Like these behaviors are what I learned as a child. So
that's great, Jon. How about you, Glenn?
I gotta go with my parents as well. I mean, my mom and dad. I mean, first of all, my dad, when he first moved to Norway, he was there by himself for 7 years and just tried to find a better life. And then he got a job at one of the oil rigs down at the North Sea, and and he did that for 7 years. And the usual, the dad or the mom works somewhere outside the country and just sends back money to the Philippines. That's what my dad was doing for the last for the first 7 years he was here. And I remember he would tell me stories about him and 15 other people on one small studio, so that they can save money on that. And just kind of all Filipinos just stay there so they can work during the day and then just come back home and just send money and repeat. So I kind of like that hustle that he was doing, and I think I got that from him, because I'm always a hustler. I've been an entrepreneur now for a very long time, and I make things all the time. And my rule is like, 1 of 10 things will do good. We'll be successful. And
Great.
So far it's been kind of true. Okay, crossing my fingers.
Yeah.
And then my mom, she's just a worker. She's just like, it's like she's the one where I learned to not give up. It's just like, you can be in the worst place ever if your product doesn't do well. Because at least for me as a software developer, when I create a product, that's my baby. And if someone says something to it, I get like so sad about it. Like
Yeah.
if there's a bug, I'm like, oh no, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to. For my mom, I learned to just not give up, and I love that about her. And like his mom is just like the glue to the whole family. She was always like so strong, and I love that about her. And both of them has inspired me to just go out there and like take risks pretty much. And the third one, like, since we're in this trainability studio, I think my third one would be my first ever personal trainer. He was the one that really inspired me to become a trainer. And I adapted a lot of his techniques, because it's like his whole philosophy was like, I'm gonna become really good friends with my clients. And today I'm really good friends with my clients. You can only imagine the stuff that I hear from everybody. I'm also part therapist. I'm part therapist when I train.
No doubt.
And yeah, it's really fun. And so rest in peace. He passed away 6 years ago. Yeah. He helped me with a lot of stuff. It helped me realize it's like it could be a business that I want to do, right? Because coming from being a programmer to a personal trainer is total 180, right? It's like I don't know many people that has that combo.
No, I don't either. That's what I do for a living.
Yeah. So
that's great.
So yeah.
He lives on. He lives on, and
he definitely lives on.
Great.
Definitely lives on.
Great. So it's funny because the next question I want to ask is what you're seeing in the industry, like what's next. But here's what I'm going to say to you. I really feel Trainability Studios is kind of that next step, right? I'm sorry to say, for all those big box gyms out there, I'm not going to work out at those gyms. I'm not doing it. They're dirty. They're not constantly, you think about how dirty the set of dumbbells are. I mean, it's disgusting.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's disgusting. So, and I'm not saying that they're going to be gone, but I think that there's going to be a major shift here. And is there anything else that I'm missing though? Like clearly you guys have taken a different approach, and that approach is toward the trainer, right? As your customer, and then they have got their client base. You've got these beautiful gyms, micro gyms that are all identical, beautiful, clean, new, fully updated equipment. What else are you seeing out there?
So that's a good question. I one of the things in my role here is to make sure I'm thinking ahead, like what are we doing? So about 3 months ago, we brought on an on-staff registered dietitian nutritionist. And so we now hold free webinars for every 3 weeks, and they are between 30 and 60 minutes long. And they are essentially a topic that people are dying to find out about, right? So the last week's webinar was really about understanding your cravings. We called it diet sabotage, understand your cravings and how to motivate or how to work with them. And
there's your marketing background coming in.
Yeah, right, exactly. so the next one we're doing is really about understanding the principles of eating when you're stuck working at home. Then we have one to be about, wow, what is this plant-based diet all about? But these are really about creating the sensibility that Trainability Studio is really about wellness and not just about working out, right? So we want you to come here and feel spiritually good because it's clean. It's more of a sanctuary, if you will, to work out with your trainer. But the webinars are a way to kind of fold in the wellness of that. The reason I bring that up is that is actually the way we're going to see, I believe we're going to see the industry out. So a couple articles I've been reading this week, and actually Bloomberg got a great one where they're interviewing the CEO of Mindbody. And what they're finding is that right when the pandemic hit, something like 55% of all gym memberships. Now, that doesn't mean people who went every day, but memberships canceled or put them on pause, right? But a lot of these guys saw upkick in virtual, right? So Equinox and 24-hour fitness, even though they went bankrupt, it's to reorg. These guys are all coming up with real hardcore virtual training, stuff that you can either pay into or just get for free. And what they're finding is that the big box gyms won't go away. Some of them will, but they will have to adapt and evolve. The worker, the clients, the gym goers have learned that they can use their Peloton or their mirror at home and have a good workout at home if they don't have time to commute to the gym or get to the gym. The outdoor exercise is something that people really learned a lot about. Big box gyms won't go away. People might go there for the camaraderie or for the social aspect of it. But this aspect, this individualized one-on-one training is where the rubber hits the road, where it's like, I want to be held accountable.
I was just going to say,
I want somebody to coach me through this, right? There's coaches for leadership, there's coaches for diets, there's coaches for life coaching, there's coaches for fitness. And this is where you say, if I'm going to spend $100+ an hour and have somebody work with me, I'm going to go there. I can still keep my membership somewhere else because I don't pay a membership here. I can still do my yoga at home. But I think there's just been a general sense of well-being in 2020 through all the chaos. People have learned how to try to take care of themselves better, spend more time with their body, their diet, and all those things. So I think that's where we're going to see things go. And I think the big guys are evolving that way as well.
That's awesome. What advice would you give our listeners? Here's the deal. You guys have an interesting path. I mean, just the coming together here. So like, you just said it, you know, this pandemic has opened people's eyes to a lot of other things. One of the things that a lot of the guests that I have on talk about are family. You know, it's like, by the way, people that were most influential in your lives were your parents, right? We're talking family. Coming full circle here, you know, like, I think when you start your own business, I know when I started Woodbridge, you got to jump in. You just got to jump in both feet. But like, what advice would you give the listeners, not only with regards to work, but entrepreneurship and life, I think are very important. What would you say?
I mean, I said it a little bit earlier. I think a lot of us learned last year what's different, right? I give you my story, which was, you know, I used to travel 350,000 miles a year. I was always on an airplane. You know, my dogs hated me. My family hated me. I thought I was the coolest guy in the air. And then all that came to abrupt halt in April. And I think, you know, it's fun to make it sound like it happened overnight, but it didn't. It's taken 9 to 10 months for me to still be comfortable with being home more often. The entrepreneurship, as he and I were talking about this yesterday, was you got to believe, right? So you've got to decide what you want to do. And Justin, you said about Woodbridge, like when you decide that you've got the idea and you want to do it, it's like, do it, right? You know, I've been taking some coaching classes. One of the things is right now, it's like, don't let someday happen every day. Make it urgency. Today is the day, right? This whole someday attitude is like, that's great. If you want to win, don't play the someday game. You know, let that be the other group. But if you believe in yourself and you've got a great opportunity, whether it be an app or an idea, dig in. You know, find somebody, your family, your best friend, your mentor, and like, you know, let them be your soundboard, and you know, get some wind in yourselves. But do it. Like, do it. Now is the time to do it.
And like I said earlier too, it's like, it's, you know, keep on doing it and don't give up, because that's, you know, I think that's the main job, because I sabotage myself all the time. I have this voice in there that tells me, I call it my 80% sabotage, because whenever I get 80% on a project, I'm like, why am I making this again? Like, for some reason I question everything again. But you know, I've learned how to
negative self-talk.
Well, yeah, that happens a lot. But
imposter syndrome, right?
Imposter syndrome. There you go. That's the word. Yeah. But yeah, I think the most important is just to never give up and just kind of keep on doing it, you know. And yeah, like you said, like, you know, go from 0 to 100, give it all you got. When, you know, you're going to start this, make this the best thing you can do, you know, and try the best. So
I'm talking to my son about that a little bit. He's 13 years old. He's a hockey player, and you know, one of the teams is going to win. There's going to be a winner. Why not make it you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why not?
Look, man, he's the one who gave you the idea for the podcast. He's already well on his way, right?
He definitely did. Man. He definitely did. I got him to thank for this. We're getting close to the end here, but if you guys were in my shoes, is there anything that you would have asked yourself that I didn't?
I was thinking about that question yesterday. You know, I think one of the things that is like, you know, why a fitness studio? Why now? Why in San Francisco, right? You know, the obituary for San Francisco has been written by every publication in this country for the last 9 months. People have been leaving, and then you find out that like they're leaving. No, they went to Oakland and Sacramento and Napa. They'll be back in 6 to 12 months. I just, you know, we've kind of nailed these questions a couple of times in this interview. Now is the time when you have an idea, right? Now is the time to take advantage of it. Like this, whenever there's chaos, there's an opportunity. And if you're a go-getter and you're willing to put your head down and keep your chin up, you can make it happen, right? If you surround yourself with good people and have great ideas and you do the work, now's the time to do it. And I would give advice to anybody who's a young entrepreneur or somebody who's getting out on their own. It's like, look deep inside yourself and say, is this something I want to do? Do I believe in it? And is it no longer a someday thing? Is it a now thing? So, that's, I think the question I would have asked was like, why? Why did you do it now? And why was this thing to do? And it just happened to be like between his skill set and his desire and his passion and my, what I love to do is build from scratch. It's like, fuck, let's do it. So
that's great. Inspiration, man. Woo.
Yeah.
You concur, Glenn?
Yeah, I concur. I mean, that's pretty much what I've been thinking about myself. And I mean, you could also ask why we allow dogs here. Why not? I love dogs.
Yeah. You guys have a couple dogs as well, right?
Yeah.
Too.
Rescues?
Both of them,
rescues, and they run my life.
Yeah, our dog, his name's Spot. He's a rescue. He's an English setter. I'm gonna throw a little shout out to Above and Beyond English Setter Rescue. They are unbelievable. When we were adopting him, they sent someone out to the house to to interview us. It was great. It was like I think it'd have been easier to adopt a child.
Yeah, probably.
I'm serious. I'm like,
this baby.
Yeah, no, I know. Here, we have a couple. We have a couple. But no, but it's been unbelievable. The experience has been great. He's like, I tell Cindy, my wife, that although she is as well, and my son is, but Spot, our dog, he's my 10. I could be in the worst freaking mood. I could be upset. I could be crabby. I could be partially hungover, although that's not all that often. And he's standing there wagging, looking at me with his eyes. And it's just like, okay, let's go. My 10.
Absolutely.
Where do you want listeners to connect with you guys? Do you, so I was snooping around a little bit. Trainability Studios is on Facebook. Where else, where do you guys want listeners to connect with you guys? What's the best?
Well, the best way to connect with us is through the website. So trainabilitystudio.com. But we're also on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. It's at Trainability Studio on most of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll put links to those. I'll find them and put links to those in the
Awesome.
Yeah.
You have a TikTok yet? You have a TikTok page
Yeah.
yet? You gotta get it, man. Dogs like coming in and stuff like that. It'd be awesome. Yeah.
All right.
You can see me doing that.
Definitely, you got to do it. TikTok's the one. My son, you got me. TikTok, it's great. I had a
One thing I require: do not put Gorilla Glue in that hair. Whatever you do.
In me?
Yeah, no Gorilla Glue.
No. Why? It's
did you not hear about it? Yeah.
No, what happened?
Oh, right after the Tide Pod challenge, the next thing is putting Gorilla Glue in your hair, and then you got to go to the hospital, have some shave your head and remove it.
Oh my!
Trust me, yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure everyone here knows what the hell I'm talking about.
That's an American Pie thing, right? Remember that?
Oh yeah.
Let's not go there.
Yeah.
Guys, it's been awesome. I've smiled more and laughed more on this podcast than any other. So thank you.
Thank you, Justin.
Keep up the hard work, and I can't wait to follow Trainability Studios and you guys.
We'll come put one in Jersey. We'll be back there in the next 6 months, and we'll look for a place with you.
Okay, awesome, cool. All right, guys, thank you.
See you.
All right.
Take care.
Well,
Thanks,
See you.
Justin.
Bye.
Bye.